be true to yourself. I think, um, especially now with social media, it's hard always. I think when you're a kid growing up and trying to figure out who you really are and what you love and where do you really fit in. And everybody goes through that, and that's okay. That's part of the process, right? But don't turn inward and start to, not love yourself because of some things, right? Like I think we should all celebrate our differences and appreciate who we are. And life's hard enough and scary that we don't need to make it harder for ourselves or for other people.
You're listening to Creatives Prevail, unraveling the stories of creative professionals.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creatives Prevail. I'm your host, Mike Zimmerlich, and my next guests are Ian and Danielle from the alternative rock band Orphan Prodigy. In this episode, we discuss why it's important to learn the technical side of your craft, such as music production and engineering. We also talk about how mental health has inspired this project, including their debut album, Medication for a Modern World. Let's get into it. Hey, Ian. Hey, Danielle. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. I was having so much fun because we were talking just before. I like to kind of do like a little bit of an icebreaker with the guests and get to know you and find out. And the first question I was going to ask you about the importance of music production and sound engineering, but also I want to talk about the fact that you went to the conservatory, which is basically in Phoenix, Arizona, where I'm based.
Yeah, it's crazy. Small world, man, in music especially. But yeah, I went there and so what happened was from the start, I've been doing this a long time. I had a band for almost 2 decades. Started really young at like 9 years old, and we did several EPs, couple of records, toured for like maybe 15 years professionally, and then when I turned, when it was like right before the pandemic, literally right before the pandemic, I hit a agoraphobia phase. We got back from the second album tour, and I was just like, I can't leave my apartment. And I just had this total meltdown and nervous break. And it took me about 6 months to kind of, think about, well, first of all, heal and get better, but then once I did get better, figure out what I wanted to do in music, because, it's all I ever knew, besides, making coffee, on occasion, to supplement income from music. But, so I really had to rethink what I wanted, my position in the industry. And so I found the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences in Arizona and, met her simultaneously.
Yeah.
And we started hanging out, talking music, playing a lot of Call of Duty and stuff. And
we met in New York, not in
yes,
Phoenix.
Correct. Thank you.
So
I was going to ask that if he went to conservatory as well. So
no, I did not. But
that would have been trippy.
That would have been. So we were actually dating long distance at that point when he went off to Arizona.
Yeah, so I was feeling really, strong and confident and stuff, and I really felt like, oh, let me take on, a combination of music production and post production. And I think it was like the third or fourth week that I was at the conservatory that they started, introducing us to Logic and Pro Tools in depth, and specifically with Logic, which is a digital audio workstation. It really resonated with me because I come from a background of MIDI. Every song I write is MIDI. I can just notate everything, and so I doing that since I was 9 years old, like Windows 95 or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it was just like a natural thing. And then once I got into Logic, I was just like, I started importing ideas I had for song ideas just to kind of keep me busy. And that first song that I experimented with was the beginnings of what would become Getaway, which is the opener of the album.
Do you feel that every single musician should understand sound engineering and production? Do you feel like that's something that or it should be like select ones that want to get into producing should learn those skills?
I think it's, the more I think knowledge is power. Cliche as hell, but like, I think if not for the sole purpose of just understanding or having empathy for the engineer, because, you can, be, kind of, I've been on that side of the coin where like, I'm in the studio, I'm in the booth, I'm doing all this stuff. I have no idea what it takes to, I have no idea what signal flow is and what it looks like, and how to get just a microphone to turn on via an SSL console. You know what I mean? Like that took a long time to understand. It's a lot of hardware, and it's very complicated stuff. And to get a really good result, you need to have the knowledge to do so. And the conservatory was a really hard experience, but it was something that I wouldn't be where I am today without it. So
Yeah, if
Must
I
be
can
also
add
free-
too,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it really puts a lot of power in your hands as a musician as well.
yeah, totally.
Yep.
Because you don't have to rely on other people as much. And I've seen that transition for Ian, where he had to rely on other engineers, and then every time he did it himself, sorry everybody else, but it just sounded so much better to me, and and it gave the confidence back to Ian that he knew what he was doing. So, I think in that respect, yeah, just if you don't want to rely on so many people, it gives you the power.
No overhead.
Yeah.
That also, the other thing too is that if let's say you at least understand it, right? Maybe that's not, because not every musician may have a skill or the ability to do something like that, because it is a very different type of skill set in comparison to performing and even songwriting for that matter. But if you at least understand it, then you can come to a producer or to a sound engineer that, these are my ideas, these things I want to do, and you can communicate with them on what you want to accomplish, because you understand how that process works. Also make sure that they're also doing their job, right? And that's the other thing too,
Yeah.
right? Is making sure, okay, yeah, these are the things that I would expect from this particular type of a role and what they're capable of doing. And also,
Absolutely.
just as important, what they're not capable of doing. Because sometimes, you go in there and you want them to do all these things and they literally aren't unable to do so. And you now understand the process why. So as you mentioned before, it is cliche, but I think it's so important. It is very relevant, which is knowledge is power. And I'm a very big believer in that too. And I'm a huge believer in that you should understand all aspects of your field. And if you are a musician, a big part of that is going to be the recording process.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it just takes the headache out of it. You don't, and again, the reason we have, we have a relatively small team, but also not. I mean, we have about 20 people on the team now.
That's a big team.
Yeah, well, for an indie band, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for any band, that's a big team.
Yeah. So, I mean, we started this in 2020 during the pandemic. That's when it really kind of started to, build, and I was live streaming and, whatever. But, yeah, now it's like a almost 20-person team. And one of the biggest, things is that, we were able to get away with not having an even bigger team, I should say, because, I can kind of do a lot of things. It's not a flex or anything. It's more just like, again, going back to that like knowledge is power thing. It's like, how does this work? And I just love knowing how things work. I'm a systems thinker, and I just love understanding how to get from A to B. It's important.
Plus, for context, you've been doing this now for over 20 years, and that you put in the work, right? You put in the work to get yourself to this point. I will say though, because I want to go back to that for a second. 9 years old. I don't think I've ever heard anyone starting a band. I mean, so starting a band, like I want to say not getting into music. I've heard like even myself, I got into started having lessons when I was like 4, 5 years old. But starting a band, I've heard like maybe like 12, 13, like, when you get to like middle school, high school
that's
kind of
typical,
thing.
I think.
But 9 years old, that's crazy. And I give you a lot of credit for knowing what you want at that age and sticking with it this entire time.
So, I mean, the story behind getting into music for me and knowing exactly that kind of like that it moment is like, for me, it was, My parents, one of my dads has German family, German heritage, and so we went to Germany. I think when I was about 6 or 7, and my older cousin Marlet, she had at the time the single for The Offspring, back when singles, were like on CDs and stuff, and there were B-sides and stuff. Um, the single at the time was "Why Don't You Get a Job" by The Offspring, and I heard that first line, and you can look it up because this is a PG-13 show. You can look up the line. That's when I knew. There was no guitars; it was just vocal. I heard that, and I was like, "That's what I want to do. I want to shock people. I want to just, you know." And I think part of that is also coming from a place of, I'm adopted, and like I think there's always going to be a part of me that wants to shock and needs a reaction, to sort of kind of prove my ground, and then stand within my ground. So I think that, yeah, I mean, The Offspring's a great band.
We're fans.
So, Danielle, I have to ask you the question. Did you start a band when you were 9 years old?
No, I did not. I mean, music for me is a little different of a journey. I similar to everybody, I think I played like the clarinet when I was younger, learning how to, sheet music and being part of the school band there. It wasn't something that I stayed with. My mom wasn't too happy that they pulled you out of like core classes. So I dropped the band piece, but music's been a part of my whole life. My dad is a Deadhead, diehard Deadhead. And so I've been listening to good music forever and going to concerts forever. So, being part of Orphan Prodigy now it's very cool. It's not something I saw myself doing, but here I am and I'm loving it.
Is it liberating?
It's very, very freeing. Very.
Is Orphan Prodigy your first project?
For me?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I threw her into the fire.
Yeah, he kind of threw me in. I mean, in college, I learned to play the guitar. So we're dabbling with the idea of me bringing in a guitar on stage. But
yeah,
right now I do sampling and
backup vocals,
percussion, triggering the lights. So like a little bit of everything. Something goes wrong, I'm taking care of it on stage. So yeah, he threw me into the fire, but that's usually how I learn best.
Yeah, it was the we launched the album last year, April 5th, on my birthday, and we did a show in Brooklyn, which you can find online, I think. And I think it was like a week before that show, I was like, "You're gonna be in the."
What do you think?
Stage.
You want to be in the band? I'm like, okay, let's do it.
I don't know if I asked.
I don't know, maybe not.
No, I did ask. It was consensual.
That's amazing.
Honestly, like, it's like one of those things where, like, you're my best friend. Like, how can you not be part of this with me? Like,
And I was always a part of Orphan Prodigy. I've been behind the scenes the whole time. It was really born, yes, out of the pandemic and out of our home studio. So I was behind the scenes, making decisions, helping with music videos, backstage in our apartment, as I used to call it. I was jumping on a few interviews even then at that point. So it's been a journey that I've been part of, but I'm definitely now more in the forefront for sure.
Was there, so I would love both of your perspectives of starting this project, because Ian, you come from 20 years of experience and coming into this, and Danielle, you're coming from 0 years of essentially, completely fresh into this. So I love that dynamic of the two completely different perspectives in this new project. So I'll start with you, Danielle, and then I want to talk to you, Ian, about it. But for you, Danielle, was there something that can you talk about something that you didn't realize was going to be a part of your involvement in the project? Like, was there something that you thought this is how a band, a project like this worked, but in reality it worked in a completely different way?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a great question.
I have to think a little bit on that one.
You want me to come back to you?
Yeah, come back to me.
Yeah, I'll come back to you. So, Ian, is there something, same type of question, but a little bit different to say, was there something different that you brought to the table for Orphan Prodigy in
Yes.
comparison to your projects in the past?
Yes, a big part of Orphan Prodigy is there's a lot of instrumentation. There's 20 instruments minimum on every track, with different parts, not just doubling. So it was when it came time to start streaming that stuff and perform just in general, the question became, how do we do this? How are we going to pull this off live? And so, you can't hire a symphony. We don't, talk about overhead and stuff. No, not hiring a symphony. Or even just a keyboard player. We tried it. It didn't really work. The thing with Orphan Prodigy, it's very there's the precision is kind of part of the sound. That mechanical sort of element is part of the sound, and then I'm kind of free reign with the vocal and stuff. But I think using the backing tracks, figuring out how to work that in, having the drummer sort of, play to a click and all that stuff, it became very technical. And that was something that I really had to spend about a year sort of perfecting, because we take this on the road. And so it's it's not just taking a computer or having one unit. No, it's we have a very specific way of doing stuff. We have MIDI triggers for the visuals. It's the whole thing. So to get all that stuff down, I think that I wasn't totally expecting. But I had, it's a joy to do. I figuring stuff out and just making things work. It's that old, that telltale story of just tried and true story of just being a musician and it's you wake up at 12 o'clock p.m. and you realize you look at the clock and you realize 12 hours have gone by. It feels like 5 minutes. It just, I never get bored of it.
I mean,
that's
go
how
back,
you know that you love your that's how you know you love it, right?
Yeah.
It's when 12 hours go by and it seems like nothing at all.
I think it's beyond love. It's I can't breathe without it. I mean, I once read, I was doing a demo at 16 years old in the studio, and there was this magazine, a copy of Spin magazine, and Rivers Cuomo of Weezer was on the cover, and of course, so I had to read it because he's one of my heroes, and he said in the article that he writes 3 songs a day. So from that time, from 16 years old on, I was if I'm going to be any good at this, I have to do what Rivers does and write 3 songs a day. So, it's something that it's not that I just want to do it. It's that I have to do it. If I don't do it, I start to get antsy, and it's almost just like a pressure valve, release.
Makes sense. Absolutely. So Danielle, did you to think about it a little bit more?
I did. I don't know if this necessarily answers you directly, but what we didn't really speak to earlier when we were talking about, Orphan Prodigy growing out of the pandemic is the way that we reached our fans. We continued to reach our fans from a virtual platform. And that was new. That was, I think, never really done before, right? And so it took off. I mean, and that was really what got
people had time.
People had the time, absolutely, and wanted to see, what Orphan Prodigy was working on, what it was all about, and we got the audience for it too, and it was just so cool. I mean, I'm also, a licensed clinical psychologist, so at the time of the pandemic, we're both working at home remotely. So to be able to see both of our careers take this new platform, and especially music, and be able to reach people still and give them, this great time to just kind of listen to our stuff and try to not think about what was going on at the time, kind of lose yourself in the music. But yeah, the virtual platform was a great asset, to reach fans, and we continue to use that platform.
Yeah, it's
What do you mean by virtual platform? Do you referring to live streaming or other elements?
Yeah,
we did live streaming. We did Like what else?
The
Like
whole career, I
tickets?
mean, the whole Orphan Prodigy ecosystem was built on the live streaming model. I started at first, it was just me, an acoustic guitar. Then it was me as I was starting to write material for Orphan Prodigy. It became me in backing tracks.
Right.
And then it became me talking. Like I'd play a few songs and I'd talk with people and, on Facebook or YouTube at the time. And then, we got into the gaming thing, got some capture cards and started streaming, Call of Duty and Battlefield and stuff like that. And yeah, it became like, so I always tell people, like, when they ask me, like, what is Orphan Prodigy? I say it's a band, but it's also a brand. I mean, there is like this, there's in 2026, if you think that you're just going to get signed to some major and they're going to like throw you, like those days are just so far gone, for lack of a better term.
Yep. Absolutely.
If you want to make a living at this, you have to diversify and you have to find your niche audience. And for me and Danielle, it made sense. We're both very passionate about mental health, obviously, her being a psychologist as well as a musician. And then, me with my adoption stuff. And, I do try to give a lot back and, talk to other people going through similar, in a similar situation as myself. And so, it's the mental health piece. It's obviously the music is, what ties it all together. And then there's the gaming side of things where we just kind of game with our fans and hang out. And it's kind of like the after show, virtual after show, or after party rather.
Now, one of the things that you both were talking about is the fact that, of course, during the pandemic, we were also looking for connection. And so we went online. We were jumping into, people's Twitch streams or seeing, from a distance live performances on, streamed on YouTube, and all these things were coming out right at the time. But now fast forward to today, it's interesting because we now found a place where it was like a little bit of a hybrid where now everyone, of course, now wants to go out and do things, and everyone's touring again and so forth, and has been for a while. Do you find that you had to adapt accordingly to what now the world is in comparison to where we were at during the pandemic?
I think like every business, because this is a business for us. At the end of the day, this is how we're able to live in a house and pay our bills. Like this is this is a good situation for us, and we're happy. We're very grateful, very blessed that we're able to do that, do what we love, and that's the American dream, I think, being able to do what you love and pay the bills. But going back to your question, I do think that there's some adaptation. Obviously, I think I mentioned to you before we started the interview that we are focusing this year, which is the second year of the album, touring in person more. That's going to be the focus. But it's not to say that our online audience isn't there. We still have the numbers, which is great. I mean, we have really we're very lucky. I mean, we really have passionate people who are just as introverted as us. And, there's that's what blows me away. I think the most is that there's so many more introverted people out there than I ever knew. And it sounds so obvious, but like then you see you see it in the chat, and you're like, holy shit, I recognize. Excuse me, like holy crap, I recognize that person from like six streams ago, and then they finally get the courage to say something, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, and then they come back and we encourage that sort of thing.
I'm a fellow introverted person too, by the way. So that if you're going to ask me like, oh, what if you were to choose between going out to to a bar or to a club, whatever the case is, or to stay at home and binge watch The Boys or Invincible, I will definitely pick binge watch The Boys and Invincible.
We just got back into The Boys like a couple of days ago. We didn't even realize we binge watched like a lot of series, and we're very on top of things, and so somehow the one show that we one of the best shows of all time, The Boys, we didn't realize we missed a season.
Yeah.
I don't know
really?
what happened, but we missed season 4. So we're watching season 4 right now. We're so happy that season 5 has just started, so we can kind of
Yeah, now we have more content.
More content.
Yeah,
Thank
you have time to catch up. You have time to catch up, especially since it's the final season. So now's a good time.
Oh
to,
no, it's the final season.
Oh.
Oh
Yeah,
That
this is the
sucks.
final season of The Voice. So
such a brilliant show. They cover everything.
yeah, they do.
Yeah, they
no
do.
kidding. So I do want to talk about discuss quite a bit about mental health, and I know that's a central aspect of the debut album. So can you talk a little bit more about? I mean, obviously for both of you, it sounds like for lots of several reasons that was the inspiration behind this particular project.
Yeah. Getaway. People ask me like, what's your favorite song to play live and all that stuff, and I always say Getaway, which is the first like real song on the album, and it's because when I listened to it, I was coming, I wrote it at a really dark time in my life when I couldn't leave my apartment, and the opening line of that song is "I don't like your face," and the way I write lyrics is, the way I write music is I usually start with the drums. I write what excites me first. So the drums usually, and then like a synth patch, and then like maybe a cool bass line or whatever. And, the melody doesn't come until I record that first like scratch take. And so whatever happens in that scratch take, I keep unless there's something like terribly wrong. I don't really, redo lyrics or anything. It's really just how I feel in that moment. I think there's a level of preservation of that initial intent, I think. I don't know if that sounds too pretentious, but that's definitely what I'm going for. So yeah, I mean, I think going back to that first line is "I don't like your face." It's me being confident enough to say that. It's like, yeah, like, talking about being introverted and stuff. And I'm like, wait a second. I don't have to, rise to the occasion all the time. Like I can say, screw this, like I'm going to go left. You can keep going right or straight or whatever, or backwards even. I'm going to move forward in my own way. And that's what that line means, I think. And so I'm really proud of that song and that kind of ethos on the album.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you listen to the album start to end, it kind of takes you through a journey of all these different concepts, right? I mean, there's connection, there's rejection, there's acceptance, there's getting true to just yourself, your authentic self, self identity, right? Like who do you want to be in this world, in this new world that we're all adapting to, which I think is really important. I think you mentioned that before about adapting, and I think that's a big part of self-preservation in our society. But circling back to the mental health piece, hopefully we create a space for people to kind of show up and feel comfortable and recognize that we live and breathe it too. We're not so strange or different from everybody, and for that reason, I love what we stand for, and I love creating that space for people to just kind of rock out and be themselves and know that they'll always be accepted.
Yeah, we're nervous wrecks.
I think we all are, aren't we? One of the things I really appreciate is how open the both of you are about mental health, and I feel like that. Maybe it's just me, but I feel that as a society, we've been far more open of having these discussions, especially in the last six years or so. I feel like we've been, as a society, far more open about having these conversations. And I think that's crucial. I think, as I feel like it has helped us evolve as a community to be able to willing open, where a lot of time we felt that's something that we had to keep private.
Absolutely.
And that if we were having in an internal struggle, we had to either handle it ourselves or find professional help to do so. But that was the only avenues of doing so. We wouldn't normally openly discuss it with other people.
Yeah. I mean, we both grew up in like, what's that word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Era. We both grew up in like the era where you kind of had to just like white knuckle through it, Yes, I spoke to my parents about, emotional struggles, but I didn't really know what was going on enough to be like, hey, this is anxiety, or this is me being, sad here. Like I was petrified of just going to school, being accepted, test anxiety, like, you name it. So fast forward to now where, the generations have those words, have
Those
the
resources, yeah.
resources, have the ability to say, hey, like, I'm not doing so well, and then be able to provide them, whether it's, therapy, whether it's music, or whether it's, clinical therapy, whatever it might be, right? But yeah, I think it's absolutely so important to be able to connect with yourself and understand what's going on, and you know help people in that way as well.
I want to go back for a second to, we were talking before about the album being released and also the music videos. And one of the things that I found really interesting was that you had released music videos before the recorded songs were available online. Or it was right around that time, if I remember correctly. So, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because usually music videos will come out when the album is released or associate, alongside with the single and so forth. But you did it a little bit of a different way. So can you talk about
Yeah.
those decisions behind that?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really even like a conscious decision, or Orphan Prodigy started as a passion project. It was a way for me to keep writing songs after my previous band had kind of disintegrated. It was a way for me to keep my mind going. Like I said, I need to write, and I can't, if I don't write 3 songs a day, like I will go crazy. Like it's just a thing I have to do. Maybe it's an obsession. I don't care.
It's an outlet.
It's just an outlet. It's something I have to do. So Orphan Prodigy, it started as a passion project, and we were like with Getaway. I think that was the first video, right? I think that was the first video
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, okay, let's just go for it. It was like it was me, her, and the cinematographer in a studio out in Staten Island, and during the pandemic, masks and everything, and just and we were just like, let's do this, and so we kind of started treating it like, okay, well, why don't we do an EP? And that was kind of like the first discussion, like let's do an EP, and then my managers were like, okay, well, why don't we maybe treat it as an album, kind of like. So it became kind of like a Rage Against the Machine situation, where like they had like a full record, but it was like a demo at the same time, and they were handing it out. And so a lot of the tracks for Medication for Modern World and ended up being, they were on that initial, or some of them, or maybe half of them were on that EP. And then it just kept going. People liked the songs. We kept getting, as the audience kept building, we started to realize what songs were resonating with people and telling this story that Danielle really eloquently told, kind of put forth. So that's kind of how we got to eventually in and then in 2025, of course, we did the full release with, all the video, all the songs and all the videos, and stuff. So it was like a, can this take off? And then, when we had enough of an audience to really realize that hey, we could take this somewhere, like it was like, let's do the album. Let's do an album for sure. Let's do the videos. Let's figure out a release cycle that works somehow, like it. So yeah, it was an interesting journey, but it was the best journey because I was in control for the first time. I didn't have to go through a producer. I was doing all the recordings myself. Like Danielle mentioned, we tried a few different engineers, but every single time we were just like, it's just not hitting it. It's not sounding right. It's like, too many things are being taken away. And then Danielle, I just said, should I just do this myself? And one day I just said that, I was probably like, I probably did it like 10 times, but like, on the 10th time you were just like, just do it yourself. You're going to regret it if you don't. And so I listened to her, did the 16 tracks, and that's what you hear on the album.
Also, I think there's something to be said, right? There's always the conversation, and the reason why I want to bring it up is the single versus the album concept, right? Like everyone goes back and forth between those. Is it better to release singles because then you could do something that's consistent and build momentum that way, or do you go for an album where there's more of a bigger push behind it, and there's more, there's more breadth as far as the creative project is concerned itself, right? And I personally, I've seen it every which way, and I don't think there is really a true, this is the way that you should do it. I really feel, I always say this, is at the end of the day, number one is that it has to make creative sense to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you see this as a concept of an album, then do an album, and that could be an EP, a full length, whatever, right? Depending upon how much material that you have. If you find that these are individual ideas or that it's leading up to something, then you can do more of a single type of a release and do that kind of a thing, or do a waterfall effect to release an entire EP after the end of that. So I think it needs to come from a creative place first. And that's the thing, right? You mentioned it yourself. You are a business. So you're also looking for what's going to make the most business sense. But I feel even then, the most business sense is what you feel as the artist is the way that you want to deliver your music first. And then the business should revolve around that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's always been the ethos. I was never raised, even to this day, like, if somebody hands me $500 and hey, here's $500, I'm going to take everybody out. Like, I'm not, for me, it's about the fun, and it's about sharing that with people. And it'll always be art first and fun first, moreover, than business first. And I know people, there's, I'm sure that's like the worst business advice ever, but like for me, that's what works in my life. Is like, that's what makes me happy. I know that that's not what's going to make everybody happy, but for me, that's what makes me happy. So
here's the thing, we were talking about before, and my audience knows this, is I've been in the music industry now for record label over 16 years, and I've been doing this for longer than that. And from my own personal experience, I can assure you that it has to come from there first. And the reason why is that, first of all, even as representation, we're just looking for the best interest. I think I actually talked to, there's an episode that just came out actually recently from Randy Nichols. Randy Nichols managed Under Oath. He also managed the Starting Line band, many, many incredible bands. And he mentioned it best. I love this analogy for him, is that he said that when you are like a representation or involved in a team, you're essentially like the CEO, and the artists are the board members. So the board members just make the overall decisions of where the project, where the entity should go, what the venture should go, and the CEO's job is to execute on that leadership, on that direction. And I think that is a really good analogy for an artist, especially when you have a team involved. But I think just in general is that it still has to come from that artistic direction first, the creativity behind it first, and then you figure out like, okay, how we're going to build the business particularly around that, how we're going to actually execute on it. And the reason why I say that too is that, first of all, it comes across as authentic, and the other thing too, and I've learned this myself, both the easy way and the hard way, I guess you can say, but is that if you trying to encourage an artist to do something that they don't want to do, or they really want to do this thing, whether you think it's a good idea or not, if you are hindering on that, they're going to be resentful. They're going to not be excited about the project. And it doesn't even matter. Even if you think it's the worst, I say this, like I put the brakes down if I really think that they're going to legitimately harm themselves in some form or fashion. But outside of that, even if I feel like, okay, this may not be the best of ideas, this might not work out, I still rather encourage them to try it, because like, honestly, at the end of the day, even with the experience that I have, we have no idea if that's going to ultimately work or not. So
yeah, like,
even if we don't think, what do you have to lose? It's like, you tried it out. Maybe you took some time, maybe some resources to try it out, but you found out, okay, this did not work out the way you expected it to, but at least you took the chance in trying it out and doing something that you really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, for me, a perfect example of what you're speaking to is, I hated Instagram when it launched. I was like, what is this? Just pictures. It's just like, this is way before TikTok, so like, yep. It was, when TikTok out, I was, oh my God. But, so but fast forward to 2025, 2026, and here I am. It's my most active platform, and I engage with so much of our audience through Instagram, and I don't know why, but that's just the one that I get DM'd and stuff, and tagged and all that. So it's just interesting how technology is not evil by itself. It's how you use it. I mean, I'm very fortunate again to a lot of Orphan Prodigy is really just based on tech and being able to use it in a way that resonates with other people. And so I don't know. AI can be scary, but we don't use AI in our music or in our content or anything. So, but yeah, I don't know what I was trying to say. I think I'm just trying to say that technology is not inherently evil. I don't know.
Technology is a tool, and the way that it's being used is essentially whether it's being good, used for for good or for nefarious purposes, right?
Yeah,
it's the usage of it itself, but the technology itself, it's not. It's it's technology, right? If nobody does anything with the technology does nothing.
Exactly.
A car is not going to go unless you put your phone foot on the gas to let the car go.
Prompt that pedal.
Yeah, prompt that pedal. Can you imagine? It's like, okay, I'm going to do these things. It's like analyzing how to like press the pedal down and so forth, and then it hits and then it actually goes in reverse instead. Like, oh no, you're going in reverse. It's like, oh, you're right, Mike. I should be going forward instead. Oh my goodness. The other thing I wanted to talk about was this actually just came out not too long ago from this recording, which is this mini series that you guys are developing called Outliers, and I thought that was really interesting. So can you talk a little bit more about what that is and how that came about?
That was another like passion thing. I was like, hey, because we were watching one of our favorite bands is Primus, and they recently did this thing called the Interstellar Drum Derby, which was their way of finding a new drummer. And so they made it into a mini series, and every Thursday it was like the coolest thing. It was like Primus in like a reality TV setting kind of ish, but they're playing their songs with different drummers, and it was like getting to hear all the nuance of those drummers, and it was just like so cool. It was like the coolest thing. And so I was like, what if we did that? Like what if we did sort of like a documentary kind of style-ish thing? And we talked about it. We're like, yeah, and it just never really came together. And then we realized we had so much content from 2025, and we were like, all right, we have to use this. I mean, like it'd be stupid not to. And it's so cool to look back on. I mean, you could really waste a lot of time with all the content that we have. And so it was just like, let's do it. And so the first episode launched last night, like really early in the morning after like 7 failed upload errors. But it's kind of like a prelude of what's to come. We're definitely going to get like there, towards the middle of it, it's going to get a little dark. There's definitely some dark discussions and, hard times. Obviously, everybody goes through hard times, including bands, least of all. But it was a really cool thing that we thought of doing, and I'm glad we got to do it.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Yeah, I thought it was very intriguing when I saw that, and I also appreciated too. I love the concept of developing a miniseries so that people can follow essentially the story of the project itself. I also really, as from a business perspective, also appreciated the fact that you are repurposing content and telling the story in a bit different way through the content that's out there. And I thought that was also a smart move too.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I mean, like for me, it was like, when it was like how are we gonna like the tone of it? It was, when it came down to that, I was like, Nirvana Live Tonight sold out. Like, let's just kind of like hodgepodge it, like and just make it kind of silly. And we tried some stuff that like slowing down and just like, slowing down the everything, the frames and all that stuff. And it just didn't work. But I think what we got was pretty cool. So I'm happy and proud of it.
So Danielle, what's next for the project? What's next for
Ooh.
Orphan Prodigy?
What's next for
And
us?
what's next?
We have actually this weekend, right?
What's this weekend? Oh yeah, right.
Something
See,
very
that's
small.
That's why you
So
have a
actually,
partner
if you
to
watch-
remind you of these things, right? That's
Yes,
why you have
yes.
a partner. Yes.
So exactly, and if you watch the documentary, if you watch Outliers, the first episode, towards the end, there's actually a Easter egg of what we're doing this weekend, and I was told that we can't like explicitly say it.
We can. That's why I looked
No.
at you.
Yeah, no,
That's okay.
Good.
Yeah, no. So, ironically, at this point, like once this episode is published, they'll probably this weekend will already have
They'll
happened.
know.
So
already.
Yeah, they'll know. Yeah.
they'll know at that point in time. But yes, for posterity's sake, you don't have to necessarily mention it. But you mentioned before about going on tour and things like that too, and so forth. Like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
year.
So we'll be touring in person a lot more. I can handle it now. You know, I don't have muscles, but like I can handle it now mentally. I have mental muscles now. I don't get as screwed up in big air spaces because I have her. I can always go cry and stuff in the corner. But yeah, no, I mean like we played New York City last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week, and for the mini fest, Virginia
Yes.
Music Mini Fest,
Yep,
and it was so fun, man. Like I love being on stage, and it's just like it was a great way to start the 2026 run, and I can't wait to play more.
Yeah. It's an
Really
adrenaline
happy.
rush.
That's great. Well, I can't wait. Hopefully, you'll be out on the West Coast sometime soon.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think we'll be in
definitely.
Cali in the summer, and then we'll definitely be in Vegas in the fall.
Very cool. Well, let me
Yeah.
know. Definitely, gotta let us know if you're coming through Arizona at some point.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll start wrapping things up here. So I do have a couple of fun questions for both of you. Danielle,
right.
I'll start with you first.
Okay.
So what was the very first concert that you ever went to?
Oh my gosh. Spice Girls.
Yes,
Spice Girls at Jones Beach.
that's a good
Yep.
one. Oh, at Jude's Beach too. That
At
is
Jones Beach.
that is perfect.
My
Love that.
my aunt to this day, I don't remember this, but she'll always say I went with my a good friend and my aunt and my mother, and they were late as you know, per usual, I guess, for them to be late, and their bus was coming around, and I apparently looked at my aunt. I must have been like, I don't even know, like 7 or 8, and I was like, "Hey, Mindy, I'm gonna faint." Apparently, I was starstruck at that time.
That's
She
really
likes
good.
to-
I love that one.
She likes to bring that up.
Who could blame you?
What about you, Ian? What's your
Offspring. Roseland
Nice.
Ballroom.
Okay, so that
Roseland
makes
Ballroom,
sense.
Offspring, yeah.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. Wow,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I'm sad I never got to play Roseland. I was so close, but just didn't. It shut down before we got a chance to play. It was like a really high profile venue in New York.
Yeah.
So
I think I've heard of it before. Next question I have for both of you. Now, normally I ask a different type of question, but I'm going to ask you this one specifically just because of the conversations we're having off interview. I'll start with you, Ian, on this one. What is your favorite pizza place that is not from New York?
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
no, you don't.
I totally do.
I almost feel like it's a cop out.
Go ahead.
It's not from New York.
Not from New York. You can say a chain if you want to.
It's
I'll
not
let
even
that-
like it's not even but see, it's like a backup for me. I'm just gonna say Sally's a Pizza
Knew it.
Okay.
because it's only because it's the closest thing to a New York slice.
Fair.
I don't agree, but it's okay. We eat it.
How about you,
What other
Danielle?
options are there?
I don't know.
I would I would do Domino's.
Honestly, like,
Hey,
I don't
Domino's
even
is
know
sometimes
who.
Domino's
Killer.
is
I wanna get,
fire, as the
like-
kids say. Domino's is fire.
No. I don't know. It's really hard. I mean, I don't. You know, I almost want to say. So I have family down in Florida. I happen to like their pizza down there, to be honest. But I can't think of
I
like
haven't had
a name.
Too much Florida pizza.
It's you know what it is. It's the thin crust around Connecticut is just so different than New York, and that's what they're like they're proud of is this very
Char.
charred thin crust. But
for us,
the
it tastes burnt
biggest-
more often than
yeah,
charred.
not only does it taste burnt, but they are like so skimpy on the cheese and the dough. So it's like
He always says that.
you're just like eating this flat piece of like bread with like sprinkled cheese. Like I love like the saucy,
Also-
stringy cheese
Yeah,
pizza.
Also, how they cut
that's
it.
the pizza.
Oh my
test.
god!
So
Not to
for people that
mention they cut it like they're on
It's
coke
like
or
cut it
something.
like with
Sorry.
scissors.
Yeah,
It's
they're
just
just like random, like whatever design they want to do for the
it's like,
day.
fuck it.
yeah, no, it has to be a triangle shape like this.
Yes.
Right, and for those who are not from New York, you won't understand completely. But there is a pizza test you can do for a pizza, or a true New York slice, which is you lift up the pizza slice,
Yeah.
and then you have to see how much is it drooping over. There
Right.
has to be a certain amount of cheese on there where it's not completely falling off, but it has to be like oozing a little bit.
Exactly.
And then,
A little
there has to be
stringy.
a little stringy and a little bit of drips of grease, not too
Yeah.
much.
Yes.
Not too much,
but
just
like
a little bit.
Just a little bit of just like as long as it's dripping
Enough
a little
dipping
bit of grease.
sauce. Enough dipping.
Yes. Oh,
Right,
there
exactly,
was
enough
what
of it.
was the place? Honestly, I can't say New York.
Can't say New York.
I was gonna say
That's
this,
why
there
I
was
want to
this
give you a
place
little
Those
bit
are
of
the
challenge.
rules.
Station.
Yeah, that's the challenge here.
Oh man. Yeah.
All right. So one last question for both of you. Danielle, I'll then go back to you on this one.
Okay.
Is if you were only able to give one piece of advice, what one piece of advice be?
Be true to yourself. I think, especially now with social media, it's hard always. I think when you're a kid growing up and trying to figure out who you really are and what you love and where do you really fit in. And everybody goes through that, and that's okay. That's part of the process, right? But don't turn inward and start to, not love yourself because of some things, right? Like I think we should all celebrate our differences and appreciate who we are. And life's hard enough and scary that we don't need to make it harder for ourselves or for other people. Yeah.
I completely agree.
Your turn.
Ian?
I mean, you just jumped into my mind and stole everything, hijacked my answer. But yeah, be yourself. I mean, be yourself and also just love each other. I mean, there's so much division in the world right now that, just why? We don't have to do that. We can all be happy and healthy and just look after each other.
Yeah, we need to keep on reminding ourselves that is to make sure everyone else is okay as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
So-
Yep, for sure.
Well, thank you both so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. This was so much fun.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
man,
We'll
this
make
was a
sure
lot of
that
fun.
we'll make sure that everything is in the show notes of for the album, and everyone to check out the project and so forth for Orphan Prodigy. So yeah, good luck with everything coming up ahead, especially on the tour. And
Thanks so much.
yeah,
Thank you, man.
this is great.